Hello everyone, my name is Kody Immink. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to install, configure, and create rules using Snort. So what is Snort? Snort is an open source intrusion prevention system that's capable of real-time traffic analysis and packet logging. It's basically an intrusion detection or intrusion prevention system depending on how you set it up. There's two primary modes that it operates in, inline and passive. Inline is the IPS part and passive is IDS. Now today I'm going to be demonstrating this on Kali Linux. You could also use something like Ubuntu if you wanted to follow along, but it's available for pretty much any Linux machine. So what we'll actually need to do right off the bat is to install it with the following command: sudo apt-get install snort. The directory that we'll need to go to change the configuration file is etc/snort. In this directory, you have the configuration file as well as the rule sets. Now we're going to be creating a rule. What I've done previous to this is comment out all of the rules that Snort has when it's just pre-installed. And I did this just because I want to create a rule and then I want to demonstrate how easy it is to create these rules and then how easy it is just to get them up and running. So what I'll show you real quick is what I did to the configuration file. So in the configuration file, you want to specify the IP address of the network that you're currently on. Now in Debian, they do actually have a configuration utility which sets this variable to the IP address that you set before, but you can always set it just in case, or if you're on a different distribution, you want to set this. And you can easily find that information by typing ifconfig and get your IP address. You can see your subnet mask. Inside our notation, this is /24, and that is what you need. So the other thing we want to add, since I've commented out all of the rules, is a rule file. So here I've put include our rule path, which is etc snort rules, and I've named a file called custom rules. So custom rules is going to have the snort rules that we're going to be looking for on our network. So we'll save this. Really quickly before we leave, I'll show you there are a ton of rules. I already commented them out, but you can obviously uncomment them and get fine-grained analysis of things on your network that are going on. Some of them are like known exploits that we'll look for. The logging is pretty ridiculous. Alrighty, so we'll move to the rules file, or rules folder here. I'll show you there is a list of already preset community rules, and those are what the file was referencing before. I've already created this custom.rules file. We can take a look at this real quick. So I've populated this just with one rule. I'll explain it briefly. In fact, we'll go ahead and create one while we're in here. But what I've done is comment, so basically we're alerting on any FTP connection that happens on the network. So before we jump into this, let's kind of explain what the syntax is here. So I've got a file here that I created, kind of helps to explain the structure of the snort rule, and that's what you're seeing up top here. So the snort rule, you have a couple different options for the action. So depending on if you're doing IDS or IPS, you have an alert option, logging, pass to ignore the packet, and to even activate another rule. For IDS or IPS, so intrusion prevention, you can actually have it drop the packet, you can have it reject the packet, or even drop it without logging information, which is pretty useful. It relies on 4 main protocols for its analysis of the traffic. The primary protocol that's used is TCP, and that's what's specified right up top here. You next have the source IP address and the source port number, so where the information is coming from. Most of the time you want to set this to any, but you can actually set it to that variable that you saw in the config file, and the variable again that's set to external net, which is anything that's not your home net. You can hardcode IP addresses in CIDR notation, use the any operator, which I have used. Also use not any of these. For source port and destination port, you can set static or ranges. And you can see here there is a direction operator. This is the way that the information flows. So it's going from the source to the destination. It's nice, you can actually have a bidirectional traffic analysis as well, so it captures both ends of the communication. And really where snort is powerful is these rule options. So down here I've kind of specified what they are, but briefly I'll just go over payload. This actually looks inside of the packet. HTTP, for example, will have information about what website it's going to, and this is where you can actually block or monitor, certain websites that maybe people are not supposed to be visiting on your company network. You can block them using this intrusion prevention system, or if there's a malicious domain that you want to block, you could also do that at this level as well using the rule options. So that's what this this rule is structured in the same way. So we alert the protocol, which is TCP, from any source or any port for our network. So any connection that's trying to come into our network on port 21, which is FTP, will display a message that will say FTP connection attempt. The SID is just for future analysis, and the revision number is just, if you change the role, you could change your revision number. Let's go ahead and create another one real quick. Just give you another example here. Another one that would be useful is maybe to log SSH on a specific IP address. So let's do this. And we'll alert on TCP from any IP, any port, to a specific IP address. So on our network we have this SSH server, and we want to make sure that nobody but administrators are accessing it, and if the administrators are using it, we want to maybe know what time and day. So this would be super helpful. So we'll display a message that will say an SSH connection was attempted. Now within these options, you want to delimit them by a semicolon. And just for time here, I'll paste in another preset rule that I've made. Cool. This one actually looks for a specific website from any IP address to an external IP on HTTPS ports for this content. And this is what I was talking about before. When it looks at the payload itself, it will look for this string, ebay.com, without case sensitivity, and if it finds it, it'll log it. We'll save this file, we'll quit out, and the next thing we want to do is just verify that we have everything correct here. So we can do that simply by using T for test, and point it to our configuration file. Awesome, everything looks good. It validated the configuration. So the next thing we'll do here is log the, or start snort, and then push everything to the console so we can see exactly what's happening. So A is the method that we're going to be logging, which is to the console, and our config file again. And I'm actually going to use few just for less information so we don't get stuff we don't need. Alright, so I want to make an FTP connection to this server here. And what you'll notice is that Snort picked that up. It's exactly what we want. Now, we set up SSH as well as eBay website logging, so let's go ahead and try SSH real quick for that specific IP address. And then bang, right there. We got all of that information just by listening to the network. And this gives us date and time, source IP, destination IP, and what protocol we were using. And then finally we set up that eBay website listener. Let's go ahead and do that. And you can see that it also populated here with the source IP address and destination IP address. Now obviously this is on the same computer, but it works the same way if it's on a remote computer. Now the real cool thing about Snort is not only that you can log to the console here, but you can log to a file. And by default it actually goes to var log snort. And under here your log files will show up. What I want to do is have everything be self-contained into one file, and I want it to run as a daemon and not just relying on this console session. So let's go ahead and type in this command, which I'm going to paste in here just for time. But it starts as a daemon, shows our configuration file, and our log file is in this location that we're at. So you can see created a process ID 1711, and it's currently running in the background. And it works the same way. If I was to try to do an SSH session, it's going to log that information. We don't see it on the console, but it is in this log file right here. So as you can see, Snort is a very powerful tool for administrators to both block traffic and just keep an eye on the network and make sure nothing malicious or suspicious is going on. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Goodbye.